to the Atari podcast. It's the official Atari Games podcast. This is Jason here, producer, and I am joined this week by David Paige of the VCS team. Hey, David, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing? How are you doing this morning?
Oh my God, morning is true. It is 5:30 a.m. Eastern time.
Normally, I'm going to bed around this time.
Yeah.
What am I doing? What am I doing?
I don't know. This is a weird time. It's a little tough, but you know what? At the end of the day, this is we got to do. We got to do. There are various reasons why I'm recording at this ungodly hour. There's also a few reasons why this is not live. Unfortunately, thanks to some. Ethan Stearns is not here because he is actually still on vacation, and I don't want to bother him and ask how to actually push this thing to YouTube Live, so I won't. And it's 5:30 in the morning. I'm on a tight timeline, oddly enough, at this hour, so we are going to just get this one in the can, as well as, spoiler alert, next episode is also going to be put in the can because we're going to be talking about Days of Doom. So and it'll be dropping while I am at Gamescom. Jesus. I keep saying that, and I don't know why. I don't know why I keep wanting to say GDC. I guess the fact that I'm going to Gamescom seems a bit odd because I've never done it before. So,
exciting.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, look, I like to start with a warm-up question. I like to make it unrelated to games, but in this case, I got you, and I actually don't have any other question that's not. And this is the first thing that came to mind, and I would love to pick your brain on this. You are an Atari fan.
Yes.
Seems like it goes back.
Yeah.
So
you're old.
Yeah, probably. So this is what I want to know.
Yeah.
Because I've been working on the Recharge games. That was like the first big push back into premium for Atari. And this is a reflection more so on our work. Okay. So I want to know from you, what are your top 3 Recharged games? That's the warm-up question.
Top 3. Okay. Well, right away, I'm in love with Gravatar Recharge. That is a great. I hated the original Gravatar, so when first, because the arcade, it was such a hard game. I hated it so much at the time that I never played the 2600 version because it was like, why would I want to put myself through that? So and Gravatar Recharge was the first one that I got part of doing testing for the VCS. That was like the first game that I got exposed as a tester. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to play this. And I was playing it, and it was hard at first, but once I got it, it's my favorite. So that's number 1. It's not out yet, but I've started testing it, and Quantum is right. I have to be honest, it's right up there. And I don't know if it's 2 or 3, but it's right up there. But you know what? Since it didn't release, let me not count that. Yars. Yeah, Yars Recharged. That's my number 2, which is surprising. I'm such a Yars Revenge nut that I'm surprised it's not number 1. But that's how much I really loved what you guys did with Gravatar. And then number 3. Yikes, that's a tough one. There's so many good ones. What do I go to often? Recently I have been really loving Breakout Recharged. It's simple, it's fun. This is a tough one, but I think I'll give the OG title the nod for being in the top 3. Good old Breakout. And there's something I just enjoy. It's relaxing. I really like playing it, and but Quantum.
I would never consider Breakout relaxing just because of how we made that incredibly difficult. I'm like, this is almost a comically difficult brick breaker game at times. Like the fact that we have bricks that shoot you is one of the most ridiculous things we could have possibly done. But it makes it different. It makes it different. Yeah.
It does make it different.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that. I will say, number 1, I share number 1. I can look at all the games and take the easy answer and be like, oh, they're all my children. I can't pick and choose favorites. But you know what? In this case, I will. Gravatar, I think it goes. Gravatar is number 1. And then in no particular order, I would say Centipede and Caverns of Mars. I think those are my top
Cavern News. That was a really nice reimagining of Cavern. you know, and the
That's
difficulty
really cool.
level, for at least for me on Cavern, is really good. So it's got a lot of good replay value, and it's very fast paced, and it's done very well. I
Yeah.
like it a lot.
Caverns was I just remember that the one thing I remember with Caverns was being on a call actually with the guys at SneakyBox, we'll bring on in a little bit, and I was watching them play it, and I was actually just listening to them. They had like a little bit of a roundtable internal feedback thing, and I said, I'm gonna go, and I was listening and I'm watching, and I'm like, I don't really need to be watching this. I just need to be listening. I'm like, I'm just going to play it because I'm watching this guy play. I'm like, I just want to play the game. Let me just play the game. And this is after I've already played hours and hours and hours and hours of the game.
Right,
so
right.
It's really awesome. That arcade mode in Caverns is really something special. So
Cool.
Well, that's a little warm up. And also and the other thing I want to ask is, I didn't really get to do this. I've done this podcast a few times. This is your first time on. You're pretty well known to the Atari community, I'll say. More so. But for anybody who doesn't know, tell us a little about yourself and what do you do?
What do I do? I am I'm David Paige. I like long walks on the beach. And I work with the Atari VCS. I'm originally a backer and a fan, maybe an Uber fan of the Atari VCS, and just through some circumstances I got, I was part of the community. I am part of the community, and a very vocal part of the community. And eventually, little things happened that I got connected, and I started to work for Atari. And I now have been working with Atari since mid-September, so coming up to a year now. And so now I like to call myself the VCS consigliere. And I've been, most of the things I've been focusing on is, the further development of the VCS. I do game testings that are coming onto the VCS, so I'm a total pain in your butt for a lot of things. And I kind of do a little bit what you do. I work with developers. I bring in third-party developers. Like today, we're releasing a game, Puzzle Dwarf, from Stuart Pixels Games. That's coming out today. And I work with developers on getting onto the VCS. Now, my dynamic is different. So I'm interested. This is the first time I'm talking to SneakyBox. But, I work with developers putting their games onto the VCS platform. But I may give a suggestion, or, mostly it's bugs. But I don't, they don't work for me. I work for them. I'm now going to talk to SneakyBox, who is working for us to make our games. So we have kind of a similar job, but much different dynamic. And I'm interested to talk to them, but it's just, I kind of do what you do with less control.
I don't have any control. That's the
But you talk to them every day, right? Or close to every day. How do you interact?
We've actually talk once a week. There is a constant conversation. Like we'll talk through Slack on a near daily basis if there's anything I need. But sometimes you just got to let them cook. And then, I never look to micromanage. That's not my goal. My goal is to make sure they can create the game they want just as much as we get. I mean, our goal ultimately is to get a good product at the end.
Right. And allow that creative process on their end.
Yeah. When it comes to recharge games, and we could get into this more when they're on, but when it comes to recharge games, there's an interesting balancing act between, keeping the spirit of the original and going too far off the rails, right? So that's where we end up with some interesting dynamics. But it's only in the rare case where I'm like, okay, pull this back a little bit because we're getting too far off.
Yeah. No, I'm interested in hearing that process because, especially talking about Quantum, because Quantum Recharged is like, it plays like Quantum, but it hits a lot of great notes on elevating.
Save that for later. Real quick.
Yeah.
I want to get through some little updates around the Atari world. What's happened in the last 2 weeks since we last dropped one of these. One, Mr. Run and Jump is out. So go get it.
Yeah. If you haven't gotten it yet, why?
Why?
What? Why haven't you been playing Run and Jump?
Oh, right. You're saying that for people who haven't played.
Yeah.
By the way, can you still hear me? Am I still coming through all right?
Yeah.
I just had a weird connection drop. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a good question. If you haven't been playing it, play it. And if you're afraid, play it anyway.
Yeah.
It's great. It's on everything.
Also,
speaking of things that are on everything, here's something that's only on one thing, specifically the 2600. Pre-orders are open for Mr. Run and Jump on the Atari 2600. This is the original version of the game that started it all. So that is so you can play that on a 2600 when it's available, when it's shipped. But right now you can pre-order it. We're really blown away by the interest and performance of it so far. So keep it up, and maybe that'll be a sign for things to come. But right now you can go to Atari.com and pre-order the 2600 version of Mr. Run and Jump. It's real. Next, this one's fun. This is technically Atari related because earlier this year we actually Night Dive Studios became part of Atari, and Rise of the Triad has released, and you can download that. That is available now on Steam. So check that out.
Nice.
If you want some, I'm gonna talk about some first person shooter later. So I sometimes get into a bit of a boomer shooter bag. I mean, this is like pre-boomer shooter, so it's good stuff. But yeah, check that out. And lastly, if you're listening to this when this drops on Friday or Saturday, there'll still be one day left, but we will be at Play NYC on Saturday and Sunday this weekend. So cool. if you're in the tri-state area or want to take an emergency flight to check out our wares, you could play games like Quantum, which I'll be showing a little bit later, and or just say hello to people like me and other people on the Atari team. We'll be showing off a few games at Play NYC. So check that out. But look, the meat of this show is not hearing our nonsense. It's to hear the developers' nonsense. So
that's true.
So I'm now going to play a trailer for Quantum, and on the other side, we will be joined by a couple folks from the SneakyBox team. So we'll be right back. Good stuff.
Hello.
Here we go. We are joined by Danielius and Augustas from the SneakyBox team. And look, I mean, let's be real. I don't really want to talk about you guys right now. I want to talk about Megan's soundtrack on Quantum, because holy hell, that's
amazing.
It really is. It really is. She really delivered above and beyond. But anyway, as much as I would rather talk about Megan, I have you guys here. So let's talk. Let's talk about Quantum. But better yet, before we talk about Quantum, let's talk about you guys. Who the hell are you? Why don't we start with, because I see you in the top left corner, Danielius, tell us a little about yourself. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I'm not Megan. I'm Danielius. I'm a producer on SneakyBox side. Mainly now working on porting and bringing the games to all the possible platforms for all the players that want to do that, want to try it out with different controllers, different platforms, and in different kind of situations.
That's right.
It's the easy job, right?
Yeah, the fun one.
He's got the easy side of it. Let's be real. If just like I have the easy side of it on the production side of things. Yeah, and so if you play the game on anything that's not PC, you can thank Danielius for that. And Augustas, go on. Introduce yourself. Tell us what you do at SneakyBox, and we'll get into some more of the nitty gritty.
Yeah, so I'm Augustas. I work as a designer at SneakyBox. Focused recently on the design for Quantum Recharge that we'll hopefully get into. And similarly to you guys, I'm kind of the pain in the ass to Danielius.
Oh, really? I thought it was just me. I thought it was just me and Paige over there. That seemed more.
We have a bracket going, like
okay,
and then going up.
Oh, well, I gotta get my act together. I didn't know I was competing here.
You must have kept me out of that room where that ranking was put, because I never saw that ranking when I was over there. But I guess the last time I was there was before we even started Quantum. So anyway.
And for many people who haven't watched before, where are you in SneakyBox? Where in the world are you?
Kaunas, Lithuania.
Nice.
Pretty sunny nowadays, actually.
Yeah, that's
confidently say that.
Not usually the case, but today is pretty nice. Although I'm in a room with no window.
It's a beautiful town. If you haven't made the trip to Lithuania, specifically Kaunas, feel free. I don't know if I'd make it the primary destination of a trip. Maybe hit Vilnius as well, but Kaunas, worthy visit.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I like getting into this and understanding, what led a developer to where they are now. How did they get here? And since I started with Danielius telling us who he is, Augustas, I'm going to start with you to tell us where have you come from? How did you end up where you are now?
Whoa, that's a. How far back do you want me to go?
Let's go back as far as impacts your professional life. Unless that entails childhood trauma, we don't need to get into that part.
Okay, so long story short, I played Diablo 1 as a kid.
Oh, here we go.
Really liked the randomized loot drops and started trying to figure out games, and just went on from there. Studied a bit of game-related stuff in media, got pretty hooked on game design, and then was fortunate enough to start working with the super talented folks at SneakyBox.
Awesome. Good stuff. Danielius, what about you?
Yeah, I was studying IT, and I always wanted to kickstart my career in IT, but I was doing lots of different things before coming to SneakyBox, and then I wanted to go on tech, and I was just I didn't have a preference to work on video games. I always wanted to, but it felt for me like really distant and almost impossible, like a dream job that you'll never get, and it just um, and you couldn't dream of it, and it wouldn't be a reality. But then the SneakyBox opportunity showed up, and I started from Atari games. My whole career started and still continuing with Recharge titles. When I came on to work on SneakyBox, it was, I guess, if I remember correctly, the Breakout was being developed.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
started out as QA, worked on that, and when the opportunity came, I started working on production, and I'm really enjoying it so far.
It's worth kind of bringing that up, because for anybody who is interested in who's listening, who's interested in gaming careers, like that is a traditional path to production and other places in the industry. Like, a lot of people do get their start in QA, and just by that alone, you understand a lot of the process, how things get resolved, how things get fixed and created, and that kind of stuff. You see everything from beginning to end. So it's a really good crash course in video games.
Yeah, you kind of get to see the whole kitchen from inside, how everything's working, just to warm up, and then it's a good place to decide what you want to do.
Yeah. So, general tip: if you guys are looking for ways if you're looking to get into the industry, you don't know where to start, and you're like, "Hey, I'm not a game developer." It's like, guess what? Neither are they. Check out maybe some are. I don't know, but you could do QA. Now, I got to say, I've actually QA on a Recharge game in particular is going to be very interesting, because it is, they're pretty tight experiences, and you are doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. So what was that?
That's the thing for a game QA.
So are you the best Breakout Recharge player in the world?
I would probably say I'm a best Centipede player in the world.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's throwing down the gauntlet there. Okay, cool. Got it. Fair enough.
If anybody wants a challenge.
All right. Well,
that would not be me.
I would have done it back around release. I think I could have taken up that challenge.
A little rusty now, Jason.
Definitely a little rusty now. Yeah.
I got my t-shirt.
I like that. Very cool. Very cool. Well, Dave, I think you had a question. Why don't you throw something at these guys, and I will see if I can get the stream going at this game and play a little Quantum while you guys are talking.
Okay. Let's see. Now I have well, let's talk a little bit about Quantum. Can we talk about Quantum now?
We should talk about Quantum. Absolutely. Let's talk about Quantum. We know enough about these guys. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. First of all, I just started to do some playtesting on the VCS just a few days ago. So I have initial raw reactions to Quantum Recharge. And spoiler alert, I love it. Jason had asked me earlier, what's my top 3 games, Recharge titles. and I said, Gravatar. But I said, in all honesty, I think Quantum is going to be number 2 for me. But I had to refrain. I had to say, since it hasn't been released, I can't officially put it on there. But I love that. What was, obviously the original game was the original arcade Quantum was your inspiration. But what was your reaction when you first played Quantum? To start this journey. What were some of your initial thoughts, and like, what are we going to do?
It was kind of twofold and interesting process how we even landed on Quantum as the pick for the next Recharged game.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had the pleasure of playing a physical version of Pong.
Oh, okay.
With like a magnetic cube that actually moves without a screen.
We actually have one in the office. That's
I've
the
seen
first thing you
Nice.
see when you go into the
I've
office.
seen those. I've never played one.
Yeah.
So I tried out that thing, enjoyed it a ton, and started looking into arcade games that used a weird control scheme. So I pretty quickly landed on Quantum.
Yeah.
And the other side of it, how I landed on Quantum, is I adore that like side panel art with the
Isn't
fractal outlines and stuff like that. Just really caught my eye.
that was a cool cabinet? Yeah.
Yeah. So those two elements, I guess, came together, and it was kind of a no-brainer that I want to try to modernize it in some way.
Yeah.
When I played the actual old school game,
Mhm.
I was surprised how well it like how good flow it had.
Yeah.
Because it starts off super simple, then introduces quite a few moving parts pretty quickly.
It gets hard really quick. Yeah.
Yeah. Things that were kind of side inspirations, I guess. Well, Geometry Wars, obviously, specifically
You don't
for
say.
specifically for the portals and things. I really loved the Super Stardust Portable on the PSP back in the day.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
It
That was
had
good.
a mining laser weapon, and if you held all 4 of the face buttons, it would make a like swirly circle around your guy, and you could kind of move through certain enemies.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how we landed on the portals themselves.
Yeah.
Because David, are you a fan of the old one as well?
Yeah. I'm resident old person here, so I played the cabinet. This one arcade that I grew up near, just outside of New York City, just seemed to always have everything and rare things. And Quantum wasn't a huge hit like Asteroids or Centipede or anything like that. But I had Quantum and I played it, and I was one of the few people who wanted to play it at the time. Because I think it was 1983, I think it was. So there was still a lot. Pac-Man was still popular, but a lot of things. But I had Quantum mostly to myself, and so
No
I
lines. That's the benefit, right? You find
yeah,
the thing you like, no lines.
that Quantum and Quicks. That was those were my 2 games that no one else wanted to play, and I gravitate towards Q games, I guess. Now that I'm saying that out loud.
Not
But
to be confused with capital Q games. Or I guess it starts with Q. Yeah.
But yeah, I was a fan of the game, and I got to play the original game in its natural element in an arcade. So when I heard that Quantum Recharge was coming, I was like, ooh, what? First of all, what a deep cut of the Atari catalog. And it was I was really excited to see what you guys had done with Quantum, and yeah, it's great. I love the innovations you made with the voids. That you don't have to surround, your enemies. That there's a strategy of you can surround them like old school. Now, is there if you circle around them and trap them in the void at the initial circle? Is there any bonus points? I never really watch. I'm so busy and so fast paced that I don't watch what is happening here and what's happening there. Is there any bonus points for doing the entrapment versus
There,
leading someone into the void?
yes and no. There's a timing trick.
A
I
time
guess you could call it a hidden mechanic. But
huh?
essentially, if you entrap enemies
Mhm.
at a certain short time interval as they're spawning in and right after they spawn in, you get a little bit of a point bonus. The time window is short enough that if you see the spawn and start circling them, you probably won't make it.
For what are the orange guys that do the little frog hops and
Like these guys, these little jellyfish.
yeah, those get. Oh, first of all, kudos to you for making an enemy that I despise. I hate those guys, but it's so good. What are they called?
Neutrons, I want to say. We did. We made a
Yeah.
little bit of a mistake by assigning sciencey sounding names to all of the enemies internally. None of us are even remotely scientists, so it's always kind of a.
Well, look,
pictures are easier.
If you don't know, if you didn't pick it up, because why would you if you're not a Mars geologist? But also, that was probably one of the better rounds I've ever done.
Yeah, you had a good run there.
If you don't know it,
Nice.
then for Caverns of Mars, all of those levels are based on regions of Mars, and we're not astrologists or geologists or Mars geologists specifically, so they were not, I don't think, assigned for any reason other than, hey, these sound cool.
Yeah, same process.
I used to be an astrophysicist, so
Oh,
untapped.
humble brag right there. There you go. Look out.
I did grill you on Gravatar recharge, and because the reference, you said
Go for it. Why not? We're here.
Solar systems, and
Yes.
I'm like, no, it's star systems, because solar system is specifically to our.
Oh, right, you were that guy.
I'm that guy.
Oh, okay. Now I remember. Yeah, I actually had to. I kept saying that. I might have told the team, and I think I told other people as well that that was a thing. So we did start correcting ourselves. Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks,
We need to hire some science consultants for the future titles.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm always available to you guys. But
Yeah,
right.
what the enemies that you've created and the variety of enemies and there's just the challenges on them, like the which is the neutrons, they hop, they kind of do these little quantum hops, and they swarm at you, and if you don't get to them quickly, you're just overwhelmed by them. And there's a lot of great strategies of creating a void, and then I'll sit in the void, because the void lasts for like, I don't know, maybe 2 seconds, something like that, and you can draw them into the void, and it's like, oh, this is because it gets busy. I mean, as you've seen Jason play here, there's a lot of stuff going on here, but some great power-ups, and I love that the power-ups are persistent. They don't time out, or at least not that I've seen that they timed out.
They time out.
Do they time out?
Yeah.
Because I've been like leaving,
Maybe you die before
Oh
they
no,
time out.
they stay on the field unless you.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant when you pick
max
them
out
up.
a certain
Oh, no.
number.
Got it. I thought you meant when you pick them up. Right. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, no, and it's great, because sometimes I'll get an extra life to fill up.
Yeah, and you don't need it.
Yeah, and you don't need it. And it's like, oh, I can actually leave that there for a little later, for a little rainy day when I'm like crashing into a million things, and it's like, got to get back there.
Yeah.
With the. This is kind of a nice lead into what I wanted to say. Like, we tried to make the old game more strategic with like threat assessment, kind of tasking the player to constantly do a threat assessment. The one change that kind of led us down this road was, if you remember in the original game, if one of the particles touched your trail, the trail would shrink and disappear.
Yeah.
And with the number count and like speed of the game that we set out for ourselves initially, that just wasn't going to happen. So when we took it out, the game felt kind of empty. So we started working on developing the different enemy types and slowly building out that like combat puzzle, essentially, of micromanaging the field and picking and choosing who you want to deal with first.
Yeah, no, it works really good, and it's probably a challenge because again, you've kept the tradition of, or no, tradition, I don't know if that's the right word, the essence of Quantum, that it's not a direct combat. There's no lasers coming from your ship. It's a passive combat game. I don't know if that's the right way to say that.
I believe that this is actually the first Recharge game where you can't shoot anything, because even in Breakout you could shoot things eventually.
I never thought about it this way, but actually,
yeah. No, there's everything else. There's an active combat element too. In Quantum, like the original, you don't have that active combat.
What we don't tell you though is once things are in that portal, they're immediately shot by a bunch of things.
Yeah, but even if it's not direct combat, it's still packed with action.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So Danielius, what was one of the staples of the original Quantum game is that is a trackball game. So I'm kind of interested to get both of your takes on it, but we'll start with Danielius, which is when you were going through and looking at all the other platforms, did you find challenges as far as adapting the control scheme, even though it's optimized for a controller, of course, but what kind of challenges come up when actually porting, be it around controls or hardware capabilities, anything like that?
Well, I guess it kind of started out with a PC, because trackball is essentially a mouse, and anybody can still pick up a current trackball and play it on a PC or even VCS. But it's quite a technical challenge to make it work well with a mouse, and the main thing is just limiting it in a way that you can't just circle around real quick the whole screen and just choose the game that way. Yeah. So I guess that's the biggest challenge. Regarding every other platform, the joystick controls are pretty much the same, and they do work, and it's in my opinion much harder. Are you playing on a joystick right now?
I'm playing on a controller.
On controller.
I got my sweet bright yellow Xbox controller that I play all my PC games with. I used to be a mouse keyboard guy, but now it's I just find everything easier with a controller. I think I don't know why.
That's cool.
I have to say,
pretty good at this.
Yeah, I have to say that I'm one of those annoying trackball mafia players, right? It's if I for Centipede and Missile Command, I want to have that trackball, from the original, and in terms of precision, like in Missile Command, getting to one spot to the other in precision, I just find I love the mouse and a trackball. I hook up a trackball on my VCS to do that. And so I was really excited about, trackball. Quantum was a trackball game, the only vector game from Atari that had a trackball. And I was like, the fluid motion and movement that you have with Quantum Recharged, I actually like the controller better, because it's this, you don't have to be constantly moving, but you get into this rhythms of creating, figure eights and whatever and circles that I actually find that I'm more comfortable with a controller than I am with the trackball. So
yeah, I guess you don't need that pinpoint precision that much, since you're creating those voids that are sucking in enemies. Because it's more of a flowy kind of style.
It's a very flowy. So the joystick works really nicely in creating that flow where, it's more difficult, I find personally, to, with the joystick to get over to this spot to launch my missile. Then they got to go over here. Trackball feels. But yeah, you weaned me off a trackball on a game. Congratulations.
And I remember you scoffed. So you sent us a video when you first started playing the VCS game, and you see when we start the game, literally there is a thing that says it is a controller breaking a keyboard saying controller recommended, which I think is an awesome little animation. And and you're like, whatever, I got my trackball. You had a camera pointed down at your weird Fisher Price looking trackball, and then then you're like, whatever, I'll play this as a trackball. You immediately turn on those controls, and then you're like, and so it's cool to hear you say that, and I think Augustas would probably be happy to hear you say that as well, because I mean, I want to know what was the approach in adopting what was originally trackball controls to or even mouse controls. I think you have this one single screen, right, in the original Quantum. So it made that a lot easier. Like if you play it on Atari 50, and it's easy to get that one-to-one mouse movement. But here we are zooming in, we have camera control, things are moving around. So what was the approach in used? What were some of the difficulties for adopting the controls so that it still feels like Quantum, even if you don't have that, for most people, when they have that controller, that one-to-one cursor control?
The biggest challenge was kind of stemmed from doing it backwards. I know it sounds kind of weird, but since we knew from the get-go that we're going to be making this game for a lot of different platforms, we couldn't lean on making the game fun for mouse and then adapting it back to every other system. So we rather focused on making it fun and tactile and like quick-paced on controller. And then we ran into troubles readapting it back to mouse because mouse was just way too fast, way too powerful. It left you these like pauses in the action where you could just essentially screen wipe or like at least half wipe or wipe a screen.
Yeah.
And would just be sitting there waiting for the next enemy batch to spawn in. So it wasn't purely a challenge of just adapting the controls, but making the game, balancing the game rather, for both controller options. And I think we did a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, no, I think you did. And I like the two different options that you have. You know, you have accessibility controls, which is always great to, you know, be able to, you know, for people who are not, you know, have some physical disablements and things like that, to give that option. But then a more that direct control where it's more old school of rolling. So, I mean, it's great that you have that, you know, while I personally have preferred now to just use the controller, someone who really is a diehard, you know, they have that option to use that mouse and kind of in that arcade way where you gotta roll it and get that guy moving. So it's great to have those options. So I think you guys did a great job on that.
One of the biggest back and forth, you know, behind the scenes early on, like the to keep the controller support and the controls there felt amazing from the rip. Like they were great. And you know, there's certain balancing, of course, but for the most part, it was great almost immediately. Now, I was the one who I think pushed the most back on the on those mouse controls. And anytime there was a solution, I'm like, no. And you know why, David? It was because of you people, the trackball mafia. Now, I don't know if you know the origin of that, but now that you guys have embraced this and turned it from a pejorative that I created to a badge of honor.
Absolutely.
I think now I can take credit and say that is actually my branding that I applied to you guys internally. I don't know who let it out that I called you guys that.
I did it first from Ethan Stearns.
Okay, got it. Then I was the one who originally started.
You're one of those trackball mafia guys. First conversation I ever had with him, he threw that at me, and I was like,
yeah. So that actually came originally because it was around the same time that the Hawkeye show came out. I'm not a big comic book reader, but I do watch all the Marvel stuff. Yeah. And they had the tracksuit mafia. And it was around the same time that I was getting a lot of shit. And I'd say all of us were getting a lot of shit because of our because of the trackball performance in Centipede. And I was like,
I remember buying trackball SneakyBox just to test it out and work. And I was kind of hooked from the start. I remember using it like for the whole month. My PC just doing regular work with that trackball. And didn't stay with me, but it was kind of fun.
But in defense, okay,
all right, hey, defend yourself. It's all good.
Trackball is a very Atari thing.
Sure.
It's a very Atari controller. We don't talk about the original Lunar Lander controller and the LEM, and the LEM controller, but trackball is just very Atari, and so a lot of hardcore Atari fans, we love any chance we can get to have, you know, going back to Centipede and Missile Command and just that very precision and just very Atari feel. You know, it's important to some of us because we have nothing else to do. Totally. We have nothing else better to do, so we harp on that. So, but it works great for you. You know, you guys have done a great job with that. So
yeah, I appreciate it, and I understand. And I think it is a this is not meant to be to talk any smack. It's just the realities of it, which is I think a lot of us lack the lack the trackball nostalgia.
Sure.
And that certain connective tissue. And when you look at the modern landscape, how we play games, and this is in my defense of why these things sometimes get overlooked, is because we are creating the games for the wide range of modern audiences, because that is the 99% of people that will be playing the game, and most of them will be playing it on not necessarily this specifically, actually.
Yeah.
Probably mostly using a Switch or a PlayStation controller. And that's like everybody's going to be playing it that way at the very least. So that is typically what we think about and what we optimize for. And when I think, and even when I see things with a trackball, it's like even back in the day, I'm like, it never really felt. And maybe that's just because I didn't grow up with it or something like that. But it never really quite felt precise or good. And I'm like, the reason why they're not mainstream now and why you got one of these instead of the ball is because there's a certain level of precision that comes with that. And as things move forward, you're leaning more into nostalgia. Like if you could force everybody to use a trackball, that would be pretty cool, but you have to keep the level playing field as well. And that's the other thing, especially when you're dealing with high scores.
Sure, absolutely. No, and all of that makes sense, and evolution and all that. But I'm you know what? Maybe Atari can lead this path, because I think we should. The trackball needs to come back. I know I'm personally pushing for a trackball controller, specific trackball controller. Let's see if anyone outside of myself listens to me on that one.
That'd be actually kind of cool.
Yeah,
Well,
see?
it's kind of nice to. I know that's not a huge percentage of players use that, but if we can find the time to look into the trackball controls feels good. It's cool. I think that those retro games should have that touch and that ability to experience it not necessarily the best way to, but just a pretty cool and fun way.
Well, I do want to thank you guys for the support you do for mouse and trackball for certain games. And again, trackball's not going to be for every game, but there are a couple games that I think once you really try, like get your Missile Command Recharge, get a good trackball, and I think you'll eat the words of precision.
Oh, there are certainly times. Actually, what I find is like for Missile Command, I play that on a like when I'm playing that on PlayStation, for example, I will play that. You can use the trackpad, and that is more precise than it is using a thumbstick in that game.
Yeah.
Same thing for I actually think with Aka, which released earlier this year. You can also play that with a with a mouse as well, and that's and using that on the trackpad is way cooler. And we'll have some Aka news in the coming weeks, so be on the lookout. Now, look, we've talked a lot.
Yeah,
we've talked a lot about Quantum. I think if there's nothing else to say on that, great work on the SneakyBox side, Augustas.
Let me ask one thing.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Ask one more thing, and then we're going to get into what we're playing.
Okay. So just, is there something that didn't make it into Quantum that at first you were like, oh, and this is a general question about any time you're doing a design where you just like, oh, but let's Quantum. Was there something that you had envisioned, but just it wasn't working out? It had to go on the cutting room, get on the cutting room floor.
I love that question. Great question.
I think it's kind of fair to say that for most games, you probably have 3 games worth of ideas that are left on the cutting room floor, as you put it. Nothing too specific jumps out at me. We had ideas for a few game modes that kind of go even further away from the original gameplay hook of the arcade game.
Mm-hmm.
So we tested those out. We tried to pull them in to make it quote unquote Quantum, I guess. But some of them just weren't working. It felt like a completely different game.
Okay.
So we decided to opt out from those options. One thing, this kind of relates back to the control stuff. Briefly, we did try using the DualShock 4 DualSense touchpads.
Okay.
They're just too small. Instinctively, when you play the game, you want to make bigger shapes as they appear on screen. And everybody who played it that way just said you drag your finger off the thing and your guy stops. So it just wasn't intuitive enough, I guess, for the type of game we made to make that control option viable. But we tried out a bunch of stuff like that. I personally like playing Quantum with a fight stick. It's kind of hard to set up, but having those big buttons just really emphasizes dashing and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing too specific. Like most of the stuff we set out to do, with guidance and help and a bit of bickering here and there, we did make it.
All right.
Awesome.
Cool. I mean, look, I'm sure we all have something. I mean, I got like little things that that I know you want to get in. You're always thinking about it. You always want things to get in. I mean, the most basic. I remember at the end, I was like, wait, I thought we can't do that. It's like, no, we're too late. Can't do it. Which is like for co-op, like when you circle two things and you make like kind of a Venn diagram. Not being able. This is like a small thing. It doesn't impact gameplay at all, but it's just like a little visual thing. You know, wanting to see like a third color for overlapping circles. That didn't make the cut. That's a little thing, but that was in the plan originally, but it just became too complicated at the end.
Void's making a super void with a.
That was actually originally. That was in the original design as well.
Yeah.
Action.
We tried making it PvP essentially, with the Venn diagram stuff, and it just took away too much of the like essence of the game. It wasn't planning anymore. It was like reactions based and kind of not as fun as we'd like it to be.
Yeah. Danielius, you got anything? Because I know you've obviously been in the loop as well. Maybe you saw the Jira board and you're like, oh man, that would have been cool. Or maybe it's something specifically platform side. I don't know. What do you got? Anything? Or
I
nothing?
don't think I have something
it's perfect?
specific. Like usually, like those games, those old school games are pretty simplistic from the start, so it's really easy to stray away too far. So I think it's a good thing that it still keeps the essence of it, and then there's not too many distractions or changes to the core gameplay that distracts from that main feel of the original game.
Nice. Good stuff. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to play this little clip that Ethan made for this segment because it's so ridiculous. But here we go.
Got something that might interest you.
Love that. What are you playing? And
fun fact, that's my favorite NPC in any video game.
Is it?
Wow. That's your favorite, huh? Sounds like
Yep.
someone's never played Ghost Trick the Phantom Detective and has not been introduced to Missile the Dog. Play that game, and then you will change your tune.
I've never played that game. So
Well, add it to the list. It's now available in everything. Anyway, I gotta randomize the list of order here to go through what we're playing. Let's just pick one game apiece here, and we'll start with you, Paige. What do you got?
To be honest, I'm playing a lot of Quantum Recharged. I don't want to sound like a shill, but I'm playing a lot of Quantum Recharged. Before that,
Sounds like a shill.
I'm chilling here. No, I really am playing a lot. I've been doing a lot of Mr. Run and Jump, and I'm a slow plodder, so I also been doing a lot of still Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. But,
That's awesome. That's awesome. How have your thoughts evolved on? I actually would like to lean in on Mr. Run and Jump, even though it's it is a bit chilly, right? But I do want to know how you having a time with that? How do you consider? Where do you place your platforming skills?
horribly.
Okay, great. So how you handling that game?
I'm a horrible platformer. My son watches me. He's 11 and he laughs at me. But I'm having a grand old time. I'm a bit of a masochist. So the fact that I'm struggling, but I've been playing it enough that I'm starting to go through it. But I'm still early in the game just because I'm doing a lot of time. I'm playing Quantum and doing testings and doing stuff for that. It's always the hard part. It's like I get to play a lot of games because I'm QAing and testing games, and that once the game gets launched to everyone else, everyone eclipses me because I have to move on to the next game. So it's like, ooh, I get to play too many games, but I have to move on to a bunch of other games. So it's always hard for me to maintain and to progress really far. But Mr. Runjum, I'm really enjoying, and I'm going to plod along, and I'm going to enjoy myself like I have been. And it's tough. It's tough, especially for someone me. I'm not a precision platformer, but I'm really enjoying it.
Great. Happy to hear it. All right, Danielius, what are you playing?
I'm playing quite a few titles because I can play, but I cannot say about them. They're under NDA still on the Sneaky Box side, but we have some really exciting projects brewing, and it takes quite a bit of time of the available time to play games.
Fair enough.
At home, I'm probably I have to finish Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Not that I really want to, but I'm really excited for Mirage, and I just want to put that into the checklist of finished Assassin's Creed games.
Oh man,
So
I love Valhalla. I've played every Assassin's Creed game. Let me put it this: every mainline Assassin's Creed game. I haven't played the those offshoot, the 2D ones. But
Oh,
I
yeah,
love.
yeah,
But
I also did that.
Valhalla blew me away with how much I liked it. It grabbed me in a way that Odyssey took a while to grab me, and Origins never. I kind of like had to push myself through it. But man, Valhalla. And then when I was like, man, this game actually for something so huge nailed pacing. And then I'm reading all the reviews. I'm like, this pacing's terrible. I was like, oh my god.
Well, they switched a few things from the last game. I it kind of really it was really gripped me from the start, but then kind of died
Yeah.
down. But I'm pretty happy to get back to it. It's been a while
We'll have to
since I put
we'll
it
have to,
away.
we'll have to talk about that a bit offline. I got some questions for some choices you made. I've been judged by someone internally here for my choices. Actually, some people have judged me for my choices that I've made with some of the romance options in that game. But you know what? What are you gonna do? Viking life.
Yeah.
All right. I'm next. I've been playing. I finally got to Warhammer 40K, right? 40K, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Bolt gun.
Yeah.
And look, I don't care about Warhammer. Never did. Probably never will. But I did enjoy Space Marine when that came out back in the day.
Okay.
And a weird fun fact about that is I actually played through that game on Live because I had like a voucher for a game and they were like, here you go, you can play this game. I'm like, okay, cool. And I played it. And I was like, this game is awesome. And I don't know anything that's happening. All I know is there's like ridiculous dudes in huge armor. You're like killing hordes of orcs, and it's like weird melodrama story. I'm like, I am into this nonsense. And then I never cared about Warhammer. And now there's another Space Marine game coming out. I'm like, cool. But then all of a sudden, there's this badass looking boomer shooter. Now I'm in a bit of a boomer shooter kick. I'm like, it turns out I love boomer shooters because I played Proteus. That awakened something. And then I played through Ion Fury. And now I'm looking forward to Ion Fury, is that the next one or whatever the hell it was called? And then the next one's coming out. I'm really excited for that. And this thing shows up. And I started playing this on my Switch, and it is awesome. Yeah. So if you like simple, straightforward boomer shooter, no frills, old school style. I mean, one of the things that these games really does better than a lot of others is just intricate level design. That stuff really comes across as well. Like levels that kind of like loop back on themselves and interesting puzzle design. So highly recommend it if you want awesome shooting. You don't need to care about Warhammer, just like I don't. If you just want a really amazing boomer shooter, check it out. Warhammer 40K bolt gun.
Nice.
Finally, Augustas, what are you playing?
I've been on a weird kick of roguelites.
Okay.
Basically,
I've heard of those.
I watched a stream, or was it a video, where a guy was switching the roguelite he's playing every time he dies in the current game. So it's like starts a run of Hades, dies, jumps into Rogue Legacy, dies, jumps into Spelunky, dies.
Oh my god!
I really enjoyed that video, so I made a short list of the ones that I like personally, and have been trying to do that for myself because it's a very interesting experience. Of the sessions are short enough where you can get a lot of experience in like a free hour or even half hour if you have it. Yeah,
Wow.
I know it sounds weird, but I do recommend trying it. It's pretty fun.
The roguelike gauntlet, huh?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
It's easier to do that on PC and Xbox Series S and X because PC, obviously, you could have multiple windows open. Series, you could have quick resume. But I couldn't imagine doing that on a Switch or PlayStation. That would be a nightmare. Or even the VCS, because it'd be like just loading up the game every life.
Right.
It'd be terrible.
But it's not that problem.
Kind of.
That
It
a
gives
huge
you
problem
a,
if you're good enough. If your run lasts quite a while. But
it
at the
gives you a
start,
little bit of pause playing it not on PC, not having everything running at the same time. Because the way I did it, I play Hades on Switch, and I just played it in
Oh, that's
handheld.
true. Yeah.
And then
And then
I
you go to-
died, and I started Rogue Legacy 2. And then I died in that and kept switching to Wizards of Legend and stuff like that.
I want you to throw one more roguelite in the rotation, if I may. And that would be
Okay, go ahead.
and that would be Immortal Redneck, which is a first-person shooter. Just so you could completely fry your brain.
Okay.
So you can go from
Give it a go.
isometric hack and slash platformer first person shooter. Just
Mind you, I don't want to sound like a complete psycho. I do this with like the same music. I put on a soundtrack I like, and then I
that's not crazy.
rotate
That's
the
fine.
games.
I play a lot of games. This is going to sound blasphemous. I play a lot of games listening to podcasts. So for a lot of those roguelike games, I would also probably listen to podcasts as well, which is how I played most of them. And then I'll put back the music. I'll put the music back on or the sound back on for various dialogue, story sequences, that kind of stuff.
and that's the reason why QA misses the audio bugs.
Hey, look, man, that's not my title.
I listen to everything, and I actually don't play any other supplemental, a podcast or any other music than what the game is playing. I mean, fortunately, with Megan's soundtracks on there, why do I need to go anywhere else? But I try to focus real hard on the game. It's probably why I don't play games very well, because I'm probably over focusing. Maybe I need to listen to a podcast or something else.
Yeah, you need to chill, man. You need to throw back a couple drinks, have a couple Diet Cokes, and then all of a sudden you're gonna something to take the edge off. Yeah. Well, look, guys, thank you. Thanks for joining.
Yeah,
and appreciate it.
And as someone who's been playing your games before I became an Atari employee, thank you guys for the wonderful games that you've put out, and looking forward to what you guys are going to be coming up with next, and for Atari. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I've already teased out. We can't say what's coming next on the Restart stuff, but I can tell you it's cool. And
see, I don't know this stuff. I'm not part of the games department. I'm VCS. I'm kept over there, and so I don't even know. So don't tease me like that. You're killing me.
He's lying. He's lying. I've told him he knows, and so he's just being coy.
This is the one time. Normally, what I've said is true. You gave me
everything else he said is true. I was
one time. Yeah, so I do know.
I don't mind telling. It's cool. So but look, guys, thanks for joining. Is there anything do you want people to find you on the socials or anything like that? Danielius, you're on my top corner now. So what is there? Are you on Twitter or X or Threads? No?
Not really. Yeah,
right.
If you have any ideas, you can find me on LinkedIn.
There you go. Or you can, or if you're in Kaunas, look for the guy who looks like that. Augustas, what about you?
I'm not really big on socials, but if you're interested in the work we do or just want to get in touch, SneakyBox everywhere, basically.
There you go. It's a good one as well.
And you can see some of our other projects if you follow us. So
yeah,
fun.
You can see some of those secret things that Danielius was talking about. And Paige, aka Davpa.
That's me. You can email me directly at david.page@atari.com.
Oh wow, that's bold.
What's that?
No, go ahead.
You can drop me a line. I'm on the Atari Discord, whether it's the VCS Discord or the Atari Games Discord. I am Davpa. DAVPA, and you happy to always talk to you. And I'm Atari Age forums and other parts too. I'm always DAVPA. That's my gamer name. That I got in 1980 because of Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, which is another story.
Good stuff. We'll get that story next time. And as for me, you can follow me on Twitter/X at Jays of Doom, and you can. I'm also on Discord as well. Good call about the Discord. If you haven't joined it, join the Atari Games Discord. Join the that would be great, or the VCS Discord, whatever you'd like. But get involved, join the community, play our games, and have fun. Quantum Recharge will be out soon. Release date, well, let's be real. If you dig hard enough, you can find it. But we are officially going to announce that very soon, and you will be playing it. I could say this before the month is over. Hint, hint. And we, but the game is up for wish listing and pre-ordering on some platforms such as Switch. And so please go to Steam and give that a wish list, even if you don't intend to buy it. It would just be nice that supports us on the platform. And
yell at me for the VCS not having a wish list. We're getting there. Slowly
but surely.
Well,
guys, Danielius Augustas, thanks again for joining. And thank you, everybody, for listening and making it this far. If you are listening to us on podcast services, please give us a rating on iTunes. That also helps the algorithms. So say nice things or say mean things. Be honest, but still put 5 stars on that, and then be honest. That'll help. And then once the average starts tilting that way, and we have enough where your bad review will actually will be outweighed by the positive reviews, then you can start putting lower reviews. But until then, 5 stars. Say things. Speak your mind. And keep asking questions, because that helps. We didn't have any for this podcast, but I hope we get them for the next one, which we will actually be talking about Days of Doom with SneakyBox again, but a bit of a different cast. So until then, thanks for listening. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure.
Bye now.
See ya. Thanks for having us.